Pink was someone you've written with for many years throughout her career, right?
Over 20. I was president of EMI at the time, and I had been widely bet against. I had put my all into one of the European DJs that I had put my whole life into. It was just David Guetta. The chairman of Sony called me and said, hey, can you come and tell me what's happening on the show? And I said, the show is a disaster, but there are two kids in that show I'm taking. Teddy Geiger's one, and Emma Stone was the other. I played her God as a DJ. That hook, we haven't stopped since.
Nice. Billy Mann, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So happy to have you. You're a man of so many hats, so I don't even know where to start. You're a tremendous songwriter, but also a business person, and you were the chef of BMG, or?
I was BMG, and EMI also.
EMI also, oh my God. And a mentor to so many talents that the world knows. And I think Pink was someone you've written with for many years throughout her career, right?
Over 20.
Over 20 years. When I think of you, I think the one thing that comes to mind most is you're a mentor. That's probably, I think, what I see you most as, mentoring anyone in music, anyone who wants to sing, write, produce. You've started so many careers, Teddy Geiger, and I don't even know them all. But
by the way, it's the greatest compliment you could give me, because I don't think you're a person that does this too, which is, there's that expression, when you get to the penthouse, to send the elevator down to pick up more people. And
I love that.
I think that's not something that we do unconditionally in the music industry. I think it's so often so conditional, and there's a business out of that. I mean, that's the business that you're in, the business that I'm in. But I do feel the greatest sense of pride when I think about all of these incredibly brilliant people who I met when nobody knew. And then I see Teddy, one of them, John Ryan, one of them, Super Mario, one of them.
What's the story with Emma Jones?
Emma Stone.
Emma Stone. I read in Wikipedia that you did something with Emma Stone before she got famous.
She was Emily, and I met her at the same time I met Teddy.
Yeah.
I was one of a slew of producers on this reality show that VH1 was doing with Sony Pictures Television, the remaking of The Partridge Family, which at the time when reality shows like Idol and all these shows were happening, the idea that they could recast a reality show and redo The Partridge Family, in theory, sounded great. And in practice, it was a complete shit show. But there were a lot of talented people, incredible executives. In fact, I would say the executives involved in that show are all so exceptionally successful today. And it was like a lot of things in the music industry. You get all the gourmet chefs together to make something simple, like chicken soup, but everybody has to put their secret ingredient in, and then you have chicken shit, which is basically...
I mean, I hear you judge an Italian restaurant by the bread, and you judge a Michelin star by the pasta.
Right. Well, Emma and Teddy were both part of this show. And in fact, Teddy didn't make it to the end. And I remember at the time, the chairman of Sony was Don Iiner, and he called me and said, hey, can you come and tell me what's happening on the show? And I said, the show is a disaster, but there are two kids in that show I'm taking. Teddy Geiger's one, and Emma Stone was the other. But I didn't, and I still, managing actors is not something that I should be doing.
So you're a manager too, I didn't even say that.
I did, yes. But Emma was just great. And they were kids. They were 15, both of them. Teddy lived at my house, and so did Emma from time to time.
And I've been to your house. It's like a fantasy. I don't even know how to describe it. So you're by a lake. You have your own boats by the lake.
It's
in the forest.
It's a compound. It is.
The house is a hollowed out schoolhouse with many levels, right?
Yes. Yeah.
How would you describe it? I've never seen anything like it.
It's a post and beam. It's a very old wood exposed house that was originally built in the late 1800s, and then we built onto it, and there's a recording studio, and I have a lot of kids. So
it's a crazy house.
But thank you. But Teddy was really significant for me. Obviously, Emma has gone on to do incredibly well.
Yeah.
But I think it's more, look, the list is long of a lot of folks that I have discovered at the earliest stages.
Yeah, you helped them shape their careers.
But listen, Toby, I remember going to your studio in Manhattan in the 30s.
Crazy little spot.
And like, I think being excited about other people's talent as if it's your own is a delicacy that I know it sounds weird, but I get giddy and really excited, like Julian Bonetta. Just like Julian Bonetta he's a genius now. He was a genius when he was a little kid. He was programmed. The first country music record I ever produced was Jessica Andrews, and he was in the studio. And by the way, did 75% of the work on the programming and was just so gifted. I didn't have a question in my mind about him or John Ryan or Teddy and it doesn't even surprise me that all of these people are in a musical ecosystem today. So I feel like a sense of I don't know. Somebody said to me, like, I'm Godfather.
Yeah, Godfather of music.
But
that's pretty good.
But I don't know. But I think that's an exaggeration. But I do feel a sense of a private pride. Super Mario's another one. Benton James, who I work with, brought him through, and he was a janitor in a mental institution.
Wow.
And he would drive from North Carolina to Atlanta to try to get beats placed, and now he's one of the biggest hip hop producers in the world. And I think about these folks and getting to meet them in that period and stay connected and to feel connected with them now. So
tell me a little bit about like writing with Pink, because I'm a big fan of Pink.
Yeah. Oh, you asked me how I met her. I was a recording artist. I was signed to A&M early on, wildly unsuccessful. Craig Logan, who managed with Roger Davies, even though my first album, which was not super successful, it was critically acclaimed and received really well. And Craig heard the album, and she was going in the studio to do the record after Misunderstood. Someone sent him my record earlier. He loved the record, knew I was from Philly. She's also from Philly, and just teamed us up. And I remember I had the beginnings of God as a DJ. Yeah. And I had that hook in my head. I thought it would be great for her, but I didn't have the song done. I just had this concept. And we met in, not far from here, actually, like off of Ventura Boulevard at some place at 11 o'clock in the morning. And I don't know, it was 3 hours later and a bottle of whiskey and the two of us talking about very similar upbringings and Philadelphia upbringings. And I loved her. Was that when she didn't want to be the R&B girl anymore and wanted to be a rock artist? This is just after that period. And she was also, I think she was, this is 23 years ago, I think. We were all like trying to figure out. Music was moving and changing. The digital piece hadn't really started yet. Videos were still, huge budget things, which, by the way, Alicia does better than I think anybody. Her video game is so strong. Everything that Pink does is her real name is Alicia. If it didn't compute I didn't know. Yeah, Alicia is her real name. And then she's an acrobat too. She's doing so many things on stage. By the way, and she's not singing the track. Like, that's real. Like, when she's spinning around, the mic is on. She's one of the best artists, along with Kelly Clarkson, one of the best like live performers who are just so incredible when they're on stage. It is what it is. What you see is what you get. There's you don't like meet her and there's a persona and then behind the scenes she's a different person. This is who she is. And we just resonated. And then I played her God as a DJ, that hook, and we were at the Steakhouse in LA, the studio, I don't know, 2 days later, and then we haven't stopped since. Nice. But it's not a frantic relationship. It's not like, I've never been somebody who's obsessing over the single release, or maybe I should have been. I think if I look back, maybe I should have lobbied more. I never had a manager who was elbowing people out of the way or politicking their records.
What was like your craziest memories with Pink?
The craziest memory that I have is I remember sitting on the floor in the Jive Records office, because she sort of transitioned over the course of all these companies consolidating. And we were playing Dear Mr. President. We had just written for Barry Weiss, and who was the head of the label, and Joe Riccatelli, who's the promotion executive, and the whole staff. And it was a very weird song. And at the time, politically, I don't think we've improved much, but politically, the U.S. was just so divided over the Iraq War, and nobody does protest songs or political songs.
Yeah.
So she was like, fuck it, let's play it. And I'm sitting on the floor with the guitar, and the two of us just singing our guts out. And you look up and you see the room of all of these very cynical executives who typically their arms are crossed about everything, all very emotionally moved by it.
Oh, that's good.
That is something that will stick out in my mind. 3 days before the Grammys, where she was performing, she invited me over and she made grilled fish, and she lived also not so far from here, in Studio City, and she's told me, we're going to do glitter at the Grammys, because glitter in the air is
her on the trapeze. It was a magical moment. That was like probably one of the highlights of the career, right?
Yeah, and I was president of EMI at the time, and I had been pretty widely bet against in terms of my executive, that part of my career, in a way that I actually is a badge of honor for me. But I had put my all into this DJ that was one of the European DJs that I had put my whole life into. It was just David Guetta.
Wow.
And that year David won. She spun and drenched the executives of the music business and made all of their glam squads freak out because she was spinning around singing that song that
was unreal. I mean, I've never seen anything like it.
I was there, and I remember
and singing at the same time. Like, how do you do that? You're spinning upside down and you sing,
and it's unreal. Completely, I mean, naked as you could be, both spiritually and physically, on television. And I remember my wife Jenna was with me, and I was gripping her hand, thinking to myself, how do these things happen?
Yeah.
And the beauty of our business is nobody knows.
You go back to the very root of when that thought was born.
Right.
And then what it took for this thought to take root and to excite someone else, it's like a tiny little idea of, wow, we could maybe do this. And then it turns into this big thing. And there she is at the Grammys singing in front of everyone upside down, spinning on the ceiling.
Yeah. By the way, and I think every hit song I've ever had is accidental in that way. Yeah. It's never been intentional, which for the people, especially for young songwriters who listen to your podcast and learn from you, I think it's kind of the hardest piece of this, is the unpredictability of it.
So true.
It's like you want it so bad, and whatever the fuck it is so elusive and impossible to put in a bottle and put a cork on. Yeah. And that is either wildly frustrating or hopefully should be super liberating.
It's like every storm, you run out with a bottle and hope to catch lightning in the bottle.
Right. But even then, then you say, fuck it, leave the bottle outside. And when you leave the bottle outside and let go, that's when the lightning hits.
Yeah. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. We truly appreciate it. I'm excited to announce that we are launching a Patreon. This will be a place where you can find out about our upcoming guests, where you can get exclusive access to BTS footage, like for instance a walk through Greg Wells' studio. You can even submit your own questions that we're going to ask in the podcast. That's going to be so much fun. By joining this community, you can help tell the stories behind some of the biggest songs in music history. Thank you for your support. It really does mean everything, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. Hope to see you there. Yeah, this podcast is for anyone who ever wants to make music and cares about music. So maybe some do's and don'ts for, let's say, do's and don'ts for songwriters.
Don't be possessive. Let go. And when I say that, it's, first of all, some of the letting go is letting go emotionally so that whatever it is that you create comes from a real place. I think the songs that connect the most, you can trace them back to something real. And if you don't start there and you're a clinician, I don't know, even if you have commercial success, I don't know if it's really fulfilling. So I think the letting go is that. I think the letting go is, what do other people think of me? I have this idea, I don't want to say it to Toby because he's Toby Gadd. He's so award-winning and brilliant, and he may hate the idea. Let go of that. Like, approach everything as an equal, and try your best to abandon this invisible caste system that because you had 3 minutes that got luckier than my 3 minutes, that suddenly you are above or I am below you.
Yeah.
That's hard to let go of. And that's where I think the greatest songwriters that I see show up, and they're just completely liberated, no matter who the fuck it is.
Yeah.
So I think that letting go is the first one. And then if I could rattle off a couple of others, I would say, don't let any single person's opinion be the ruling force
that's
for
the
what
toughest.
you do.
And especially back in the day with the major labels controlling everything, it was all about the opinion of the one above you.
Yeah. But you know what's so great about the digital age?
Yeah.
Look, the downside is you're a songwriter and you're competing against, 200,000 songs released a day. That sucks, right? How am I going to make a living?
Yeah.
The other side is when you know these statistics are so lopsided against you, then the least you can do is be completely untethered and honest about whatever you put out there. So on the off chance that it does connect, it'll be real enough that it can actually have an impact and last. And in the reality that it probably won't, then you have no regrets about how you invested.
And
your
you're
time.
planting seeds, you're bringing things to life, and you never know. A lot of my songs were like super late bloomers. It took years and years and years.
Yeah.
And so at least they're out, they're alive, and who knows, maybe in a year and 2 years, a TV show picks them up, and you never know. So do's and don'ts for independent artists.
Stop looking to be validated. There is a part of the component of any new artist that they want, like me. But there's a toxicity to that culture, right? This dopamine, it is a sugar high. So I think it's more connect with me than like me. So for any independent artist, if you have 100 fans that are really connected, you can build that.
Yeah.
But if you have 100 people or voyeurs on your social media, don't be surprised if it doesn't go anywhere and you can't sell tickets. But if you have 100 people that connect with you wherever you are, and you can play a venue of 100 people and you're good, those people will move it to 150 and 200 for you. So I would say, find your people.
Great. And do's and don'ts for artists on stage.
Don't try to be cool. The coolest artists in the world, the coolest people I've ever met in my life are not cool. It's that they're not cool is what makes them cool, because they really don't give a shit. Like cool, like I have to wear the trendy thing that everybody wears. Okay, then what's cool about that? You're inherently a follower.
Who were you when you were 18 years old compared to who you are now?
Oh gosh, I was a moron. 18 years old, I was a Philadelphia street kid. I was 18. I think I was a underage bouncer at a club on 4th Street in Philly, 3rd Street. I think that I just wanted to get out of Philly. I love being from Philadelphia. I have roots there. I love the football team. I have kids that I went to high school with. By the way, I went to high school with Boys to Men, The Roots, Christian McBride, just hitter after hitter. We were all in this concentrated class in this school that was in South Philly, in the middle of the housing projects. I knew I wanted to get out. That was my priority. And I had no plan other than that I would just go. And I think I was secure about how much I loved music and insecure about who I was or what was ahead of me. I was still somehow wildly optimistic, and I'm still a pretty optimistic person. So that's me then. And me now is, in all the best ways, the opposite of that. I feel grounded. I love being a father and a husband. I love the community that I'm in. I really want to use my power and my time wisely for the people that I love and for the things that matter to me. I don't want to be anybody else but who I am. And I'm really comfortable in myself, which has taken a long time. And I think it takes people a long time. And I think that I'm just as passionate about music now as I was then, which is a relief to me, even while I've moved to various facets of the music industry, to business and writing and producing and managing. It's all a language that I love.
That's incredible.
So
bucket list items?
I've checked a lot of boxes. I think that's such a great question. And it's so easy, but it's like most things that are easy. It's sometimes the hardest. I feel so full. And I do think to myself, knowing how short life is, that if today's the last day, will I go feeling like I have a lot of unfinished business? And I don't feel that way. I'd like to live a long time, but I don't feel like I'm walking around like if I had only done this. I don't have that in me. I think I would like to grow old. This is in a good, healthy way. I would like to enjoy aging. And I'd like to enjoy it with my wife.
Like Norman Lear, work to the last minute and have all the wonderful people around you, have parties all the time.
But also like to increase my desire to take in just the delicacy of being alive in every way that we just don't do well. Europeans do it better, but we don't really do it as well. I am working on that. I've got to make sure I keep improving myself in that way. And that delicacy includes all of the things that the social construct that we're all grappling with now, with politics and the world, and the valuing other people who are different genders, different ideologies. I'm very committed to getting better. And that is an overarching bucket list item for me. Looking
back, are there things you regret or you might have done different with what you know now?
How much time you have? Yeah, of course.
Maybe just the one or two things that come to mind.
No, I mean, look, everything from a conversation, the dynamics of a relationship you have with someone, an impatience level. I think that I have never had a lawsuit in 30 years in the music business.
That's great. That's great.
Unheard of. And I don't want to jinx myself, but I think that's mostly because I'm okay with having uncomfortable conversations up front. Think of songwriters. Songwriters I've represented, songwriters I've published, artists I've done both with and collaborated with, who have issues with splits on songs because nobody was strong enough to initiate a simple conversation.
I know.
And you know what? It's insane. And who benefits from that? The artists don't benefit and the songwriters don't benefit. Frankly, the record companies love it. I've been on both sides. It's like that black box revenue of artists who can't talk to each other. Ultimately, they just put it in their own pocket.
True.
So I think if I have regrets, I don't have regrets about that, but I think there was the pact, that letter that was written about artists who come in the room. They didn't write the songs, but they're big and they leverage their position to say, I want a piece to say that I wrote the song.
I've experienced that.
I have too in the past. And I thought this is a no-brainer. All of the biggest writers will sign this letter vowing that they will never let that happen. So I signed the letter. A lot of writers that you and I know were given the letter. And think of, Sona, a great songwriting organization. Think of the hundreds and hundreds of songwriters that support it. How many writers do you think signed the pact?
I don't know how binding it is either. I think every writer at some point has binding, sacrificed.
But just intentionally, openly, publicly saying
that should be a no-brainer.
We should do that.
Everybody should do that.
Less than 50.
That's crazy.
Less than 50.
Yeah.
And I found that to me to be, on the one hand, songwriters look at our business and say, we're not paid fairly. We should unionize. We should stick together. Ray gives this speech in the UK. Everybody's motivated. Come together, blah, blah, blah. And then when asked to sign off on the simple thing that says, protect the sanctity of our craft, nobody fucking does it. Because they're afraid that they're going to lose that opportunity for that one cut because whatever A-list artist says, I want to say I wrote the song, I'm taking this piece. And by the way, if it wins anything, I'm going to stand there and say, look what I did.
Yeah, been there too. Okay, moments in life. What's your happiest moment you can remember?
Oh my gosh. I am so in love with my wife and my kids. I'm so grateful that I have that. You know, in the music industry, my oldest son is 22 and my daughter is now 10, which is a pretty big lifespan.
Yeah.
And whenever I tell people the age of my kids, they always ask me the same question: how many wives? How many moms?
Yeah.
So I would say my happiest moment is this simple wake up in the morning, being happily married, being really happy being a father and having amazing kids. And that day-to-day blocking and tackling.
Yeah.
And I have, you know, my boys are on the autism spectrum. It is such a delicacy for me. There's not a milestone that can replace to just the everyday gestalt of being in it.
Yeah.
That's the
profound.
best.
Yeah. Now your saddest moment.
The saddest moment that I have had, you know, we all experience loss. I think loss is really hard to metabolize. And I've been through a lot of loss. So I will spare you and any listener the inventory. But I think seeing life lost before its time, out of sequence, you and I should be, I hope we have another coffee together in 50 years. It would make me incredibly happy. And
we would, you know, we're born the same year. So
yeah. But like, I want that for us. When that's out of sequence, when people pass before they're supposed to pass, those are the saddest moments for me.
Now your funniest moment.
Pink had rented a house in the Malibu colony. This is a hilarious moment. And her and her husband, Carrie, had separated. I don't even think they were married at the time, but listen, you're that famous and you know, from working with a lot of celebrities, there's like tabloids and, you know, paparazzi and that kind of thing. And she does it incredibly well in managing it. And we went kayaking. Mm-hmm. So the two of us went out kayaking in the Pacific, and we're in Malibu and it's beautiful. And we're just hanging out, having a good time. And she's in the middle of this, the social turbulence that she was dealing with. And we were just talking.
Yeah.
But all anybody knows, I guess, out there in the ether is that she's like out and there's some guy with my hair was really long, is out on this, whatever. And her assistant at the time comes paddling up really fast. She's like, oh, we have a problem. And you look out and you can see all of these paparazzi who have crawled out from behind the rocks like crabs. And they're all there with like telephoto lenses. And I'm just like, well, but the embarrassing part, and it's more like, you know, like anybody who's not a professional athlete, like I'm happy to make fun of myself. Like my weight will fluctuate, you know, 15 pounds up or down. Mm-hmm. And I was like, not in like, you know, Malibu beach shape. And like, I remember paddling back and dreading like the whole experience, like her and I carrying the kayaks out, and she's such a beautiful person and natural athlete, and I'm just like lumbering out of this kayak, and these cameras are in my face, and I'm just like, it was more funny because I have no interest in that kind of celebrity, but it's also just, I was laughing the whole time thinking to myself, like,
that's funny.
This is not a life that's easy for anybody.
Now let's talk about songs. What is the song you wish you had written?
I'm a huge fan of your songs, and I'm not just saying that because we're sitting here. I think All of Me is magnificent, and John, I've written with John, and like, and it's an extraordinary song. It's one of my favorite songs. And my younger son, will sit at the piano and play it and sing.
Wow.
And it's so that's a no bullshit response. It's really extraordinary. I think there are a lot of songs that a lot of listeners who are listening to this probably wouldn't know. There's Time in a Bottle by Jim Croce is a great song. If you don't know it,
everyone should look it up.
It's just a beautiful song. I worked with Burt Bacharach before he passed, and just anything from his catalog is extraordinary.
Now, what's when you were like, let's say the first song that really impacted you when you were a kid?
Mockingbird, the duet with James Taylor and Carly Simon. For some reason, that song, I remember hearing it in the car and just like the effortless, exciting, it was like in the 70s.
Yeah.
And I went on later, I signed Carly to BMG when I was president there, and spending time with her, which was just incredible experience. But I feel like that era, that all the songs in that era were the quality of the songs.
Singer-songwriter.
Yeah. I mean, the 70s, you hear like hints of it from artists today, but.
Yeah. So I'm going to prompt you with one word and you tell me first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Spirituality.
The humility of knowing that you are really, really, really small and finding comfort in that.
Authenticity.
Authenticity is an overused word with an underutilized importance. I think to be able to say no when your body says no, but maybe socially that's scary, that authenticity lives there. Can you do that? And to say yes in the same way. And I'd say more difficult, especially for all of us, Toby, when we're overachievers, right? You're a super overachiever. To say that you don't know is, I think, also a sign of strength that I've had to learn to develop. Someone says, do you know the answer to this question? And to just be able to say, I have no idea it's hard.
Thank you so much for being on my podcast. And if you like what you heard and saw, then please subscribe and like, and there will be more.